Hello, everyone, and welcome to Wait, What? Why? The podcast that ponders the origins behind the things that we do. Today is our very first episode of its kind, featuring our listeners' stories or experiences. Please join us as we get down and dirty with some paranormal happenings. 'Tis the season for some ghost stories.
Yeah.
Welcome back to our first listener episode. I'm your host, Nicole Gallagher.
I'm Dennis Gallagher, the co-host.
How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. How you doing?
I'm good.
Good.
I'm very excited about this episode.
Excellent. Yeah, someone else's ideas, right? Someone else's stories that we get to delve into.
Yes.
Yes.
And so we have, I think, 4 podcast episodes being released in the month of October, which is very exciting.
Very exciting.
Yes. So on our Instagram and Twitter accounts, we posted the question, do you believe in ghosts? Share your stories. And so if you don't follow us, you should. You can follow us at Wait What Why Podcast on Instagram and Wait What Why Pod on Twitter. And then we also just opened a Facebook group called Wait What Why Podcast as well. And just to put the plug out there, you can always follow our website or check out our website, which is all of our episodes and all of our information at waitwhatwhy.buzzsprout.com. So I guess that's
a lot of
our
information there.
plug for this
Wow.
for the start of this episode.
We're everywhere.
Well,
We're everywhere. We're widespread now.
this is how people can give us their
That's right.
information,
That's right.
and then we
right.
can have more listener episodes, which is what I want to happen.
Yeah, the interaction, right?
Absolutely.
The interaction. It's
It
exciting.
makes it very
It's
exciting.
cool to interact with people.
So before I start, what do you think? Do you believe in the paranormal?
Yeah, I mean, I guess, yeah, I think I do. I mean, I'm not sure that's kind of a broad, paranormal, but yeah, I think life after death and things like that, and yeah.
Well, I had some people say that they don't believe in ghosts, but they believe in spirits.
I believe in ghosts. No, I believe in ghosts. Yes, maybe I wasn't clear.
Do you differentiate between ghosts and spirits? Are they the same?
I don't. Yeah, you're either here or there.
So what's the difference between paranormal and ghosts?
I don't know. That's why I said I'm not sure what paranormal. What do you mean?
Well,
Ghosts are the actual, entities. Paranormal is the whole gambit.
What else is there? What else is there besides ghosts or spirits and paranormal? Like demons?
Yeah, I guess so. Well, then there's good and bad ghosts, right? Good and bad ghosts. You got Casper and you got Jason Voorhees. I mean, you got good and bad ghosts, right? Good and bad spirits.
I don't know that Jason Voorhees is more like a zombie, I think.
He's a spirit. You know how many times he died?
Well, no, you think he dies, but he never does. But also...
He also drowned.
If you watch The Conjuring, so that brings us to a whole other thing, that it wasn't actually Jason Voorhees, it was the mother, a whole other thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, The Conjuring, there are demons and spirits, like possessions and stuff. Do you believe in possessions?
I think Jason Voorhees was like possessed. That's the way I always looked at it. He was a demon had taken his spirit.
He's fictional.
Oh, whatever. Everybody knows him. It's universal.
I'm a fan.
That's like the most universally known hockey mask. You know that?
Yes.
Yeah. It's great. Well, Halloween-wise.
Yes.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Right.
I did know that.
I feel like I've gotten you off track.
No, I still am questioning I still want to know about do you believe in demonic possession?
Sure,
You
absolutely.
can believe in, exorcisms and
Sure.
stuff like that?
Sure.
All right. So given...
Like body snatching kind of stuff.
For those of you listening for your first episode, we have unveiled in our podcast series that my husband is secretly very religious, or comes from
I don't think I'm very religious.
Well, a lot of your beliefs you have a background in religion. We never realized that because we're
fair.
not very religious people,
No,
but
no,
a lot
no.
of your...
I'm very spiritual.
That's a word.
Yes, that is a word to describe.
All right. Anything else you'd like to share about any of that?
No, I mean, no, not right now.
I should just share some stories?
Sure, yeah.
Okay.
Let's get right into it.
I'll share some stories.
It's about the listeners.
It really is.
They
So
wanna hear my
if
stuff
you
today.
have any stories, share with us.
Share us, please.
There are actually, too many leads from our accounts that people put in, so I'm going to have to, I'll talk a little bit about it, but we might have to save some for a future episode.
Spread them out.
All right, here we are. You ready?
I am.
Okay, so the first story I'm going to share is from a former student of mine. Davin writes in that I believe in spirits, not necessarily ghosts. That's what I was talking about.
Okay.
All right, so he says, my interactions were from when I was a kid. My grandmother was very into spiritual beings, ghosts, signs from the beyond, and all that. When I was a kid, I had multiple interactions with younger spirits. Living in Acton, Maine, I would hear children riding bikes and playing outside in a neighborhood where no kids were living. In the same house, I would hear a little girl, mostly in the evening, singing or humming a song. I could never make out what the song was, but I assume it was a lullaby or a bedtime song of some sort. Then, living in Dover, my mother had a friend who was a ghost hunter and did a test on our house. The only room that was able to pick up spirit energy was in my room, in my closet. He asked the spirit if it was a young girl, and the reply signified a positive answer. He asked if she was the same girl that was at my Acton, Maine house, and the answer was also in the positive direction.
Holy cow. So it clung to him.
Right?
Whoa.
And then he asked her if she was willing to leave me alone, and since then, I have not had any more interactions with younger spirits.
That's a pretty crazy story.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, it's a pretty crazy story.
That's spooky. Spooky.
Spooky, definitely spooky. But it's weird the way it clung to him like that, him or her.
Well, I
Wow.
think that's the difference if you go into, like, if you're talking technically about, like, the paranormal, demons cling to the person, not to the house.
I don't know.
So it would follow you wherever
Yeah.
you went.
I keep wanting to go back to movies, which makes
Like
me seem
Poltergeist?
awful simple.
Is
I
that
was
what
thinking of like Amityville Horror. Wasn't Amityville Horror that was about the house?
That was about the house
Oh.
because of the murders that took place there.
Right. And I would have assumed that the young girl sounds down the road on the bikes or whatever. I thought the worst right away. Something bad happened down the road, and you know what I mean. I kind of thought the same
Right.
thing. But then that little girl clung to. Weird.
It is
Crazy
weird.
story. Crazy story.
I don't know. And in Amityville, they actually are, they still debate on whether, because there was...
It's a real place, right?
It's a real place.
Yeah.
It's a real house. I
Yep.
visited it with our daughter, Cameron.
Okay.
Even though you're not supposed to anymore.
No, they just
They
walked by.
changed
I'm
it.
sure.
No, we just walked by.
Sure.
And,
Yeah. Other side of the road.
yes. We were literally
Safe
were on the other
distance.
side of the road
Well,
because
that's
I didn't want to
advised.
get in trouble.
That's advised.
But so there were murders there. That a son killed almost his entire family. But the debate is still whether or not he is the reason why the house was haunted, and that the new family moved in had issues, or if because the house was haunted, he killed his
became
family.
possessed and
yes.
demonic
so that's
possession
still
and stuff
up
like
for
that.
debate.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Anyway.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I'm realizing why you asked me if I wanted to share any other story too. By the way, so we can save that for the end if you want. When you asked me earlier, I wasn't on that place. I apologize for that.
Get on my level.
Yeah, no, I'm working on it. Working on it.
All right. So now I have two stories that were shared with us by Al. And he wrote in and he said, so the first time I was 15, I was sleeping over at my friend's house. He and his parents had always said the place was haunted, but I'd been there hundreds of times with no experience. We were sleeping on his living room floor, and I remember waking up. I had always been a stomach sleeper, so I was staring at his TV and VCR. We're dating this, right? VCR.
Sure.
That gives you
I
the
remember
time
the
period.
VCRs,
I do
yeah,
too.
Of course.
He says, I remember the time was 2:47. I was going to get up and get a drink. Then a chill took over my body. I thought to myself, don't roll over because someone is standing there watching you. I don't remember the time on the VCR ever changing before falling back to sleep.
Spooky story.
That is. And he said the second experience I had was when I was visiting my then girlfriend, now wife's family in Vermont. We went to their friend's house, which was a 200-year-old farmhouse. Very odd design with an open stairway up to the second floor in the middle of the living room. The downstairs bathroom was full, so I was going to go upstairs. I made it 2 steps up when that same chill washed over me. This time, though, I smelled the strong smell of perfume and then got sick to my stomach. After a few moments, I was able to turn around and everyone in the house was out on the porch. I was alone in the house during this incident. He says, so there was no real visual evidence, but certainly strange feelings. And he said he's also had his grandmother and 2 old dogs come to him in his dreams, but he thinks that they're completely separate from paranormal experiences. So his first experience was when he was 15 years old. Mm-hmm. His second experience, he says he had the same feeling, but he was then married, like by now is married. So it had to have been
whatever years later, 7,
yeah.
10, whatever years later. Yeah.
So, but same feeling.
No kidding. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do believe that stuff. You walk to a cold spot sometimes, this isn't supposed to be there, or there's no reason for it to be there. No, I believe that stuff.
Yeah. I believe that people have experiences, but I've never experienced anything myself.
I think it's interesting, I guess, crazy that people seek out, things like that too. Get the ghost hunters or whatever it is, and and they go to these houses and look for it. That's kind of nuts. Just experience it.
Yes.
Is it a different type of thrill seek, maybe?
I don't know.
Interest, but thrill seek,
I would
right?
imagine. Well, yes. I mean, I don't know if it's the same, but like storm chasers, right? You're
so.
Chasing after something, trying to.
Yeah, but isn't a spirit? I mean, that would scare the poop out of you.
A tornado would
guess
scare.
if you get in the wrong spot, right? Yeah.
We've all seen Twister.
So, that was a
scary.
Fine movie. Helen Hunt. Did I say that? Sorry, honey.
He loves Helen Hunt. Just a little side note.
Pretty lady.
But what was I gonna say?
See that? I dropped the Helen Hunt and I knocked her right off kilter.
I don't want to get into my Hollywood.
No. We're not here for that. We're not here for that.
But I remember.
There we are. See that?
I was going to say, I worked with someone way back when, probably 15 years ago. He was an IT person in the school district, and he left to be a ghost hunter.
I don't remember that story.
Yes,
That's
and
crazy.
He did it, and I'm wondering.
Was his name Shaggy?
Stop it.
No? Did he have a dog named Scooby? They're ghost hunters.
You're hysterical today.
Right? They're ghost hunters. Pretty famous.
No, they
Everyone in this audience knows Scooby-Doo and Shaggy.
They foil the plans.
They do foil the plans.
Of the villains.
That's very fair.
Don't you think most... all right, let's get into it. Scooby-Doo episodes, there were never really any ghosts.
They were all ghosts.
No.
Oh, there were people who weren't ghosts. And
there were people who were plotting and planning, and they foil the plans if it wasn't for you meddling kids.
But I bet you they took advantage of old folklore. There was years and years of all types of stuff going on there, and then they just capitalized on it.
I think you're reading into Scooby-Doo a little too deeply.
I might be. All right, what's your next story?
No, I'm not done.
No, you're not done?
Oh, so Al also added in, because I thought this was quite interesting, that he's also done quite a bit of research on his own. He was looking into writing a book. So he says that scientifically speaking, he believes that consciousness is just electrical energy. And when something passes on, it's possible that much of the energy can move into something else. I believe this could be true to residual hauntings. So here's a ranking likelihood of supernatural things being real. So Al thinks that the first, number 1, is intelligent alien life. The second is ghosts. The third is Bigfoot or Yeti. And the fourth are all other kind of cryptids.
I cannot disagree with this list.
No.
I can't disagree with that.
No.
That's crazy to come up with a list like that, but I wouldn't have done myself. But
this is from research,
hey.
So that was research based.
Yeah,
it wasn't just
no wonder I agree with
coming
it.
Up with you're so smart.
I don't know.
All right, so we had another person write in, Barry. He gave us had two experiences. He wrote in that his first experience, he saw what I thought to be my grandfather in the hallway of my home, where I lived most of my young life, not long after he passed from a heart attack, about 10 feet from the bed that he died in.
Holy cow.
He said, when I was about 11 years old, I got up to use the bathroom in the middle of the night, and I swear he was standing in the hallway. I ran back to my bed and never used the bathroom that night.
He just held it. Grandpa's in the hallway. He must be using the bathroom.
I don't know.
Wow.
I can't imagine that as a kid.
No.
11 years old.
Wow, no kidding.
And then he said, in my house in Pawtucket, Rhode Island, It was about 8 to 10 years ago. I was working in the basement at the bottom of the stairs. I thought this was a pretty freaky story, actually. He said, I was working in the basement at the bottom of the stairs in the late evening. It was around midnight. Under where the front door was, I heard what sounded like pacing, steps walking back and forth. I ran up, saw and heard nothing. I went back downstairs and again heard it. I went back up, nothing. I checked the house and all of the closets. I swore someone was in the house, but nobody. Just a walking noise, like someone was waiting for an adolescent child to come home from a night out. Back and forth, pacing. Then, about 2 to 3 weeks later, I dreamt that this person came to me in my dream. I was watching a snowy TV in the dream, and he spoke to me, told me his name was John, and he was waiting for his daughter to come home.
Wow.
It was really freaky.
You gotta be kidding me. That's so weird.
I know.
Huh. Wow.
And so that's when you think, like to me, are you having that dream because of your experience, or is the dream and the experience related?
That could be. Right, that could be. I
what's
mean,
in the house?
Yeah, I'm sure we all dream. I guess we all dream about some things that we experience or thought about, consciously somehow floods into your unconscious. That could be possible. But the pacing things, that's spooky. That's scary.
That is scary.
Yeah,
I would freak out. I don't know. All right. So I guess if I were home alone, maybe I would go down armed.
Oh, you wouldn't do anything?
No, go looking.
Well, I wouldn't want you to go
armed.
look, to be honest. But yeah.
Well, what do you do?
I don't know. You go. I would go. I mean, I would go check it out. It's your house.
Yeah.
Someone's pacing on the floor. They're not paying the taxes. They're not supposed to be there. What do you mean?
Yeah. Well, what would you expect me to do?
No, nothing. I went. It's why we. No. What do you mean? What I expect you to do? Yeah, hold fort. I guess hold fort.
Like if you weren't here, right?
Sure.
You'd have to.
That's why I got you a giant dog, honey. Why are we having this conversation?
Wow.
You have a giant dog. She does.
I do.
So it's really not a point.
very
So everyone should just get a giant dog, and you'd be safe in the spirits. Right?
Yes.
They don't like
guess
dogs.
So.
The dog's barking them too in the movies, right?
Well, yeah. So
Right?
especially. Well, I don't know if this is a true part of Amityville, but the dog wouldn't go in the house.
There you go. Dogs know.
And he refused to go in.
No kidding. Mm-hmm. Shout out to Barry, by the way.
Was that
Nice
The
story.
Conjuring? I think it was both.
I'm not that versed in those movies. You're the horror. You
Anyway,
like the horror
I
movies.
love fall, and I love everything scary that goes with it. So
As you
I might
can tell
be
by
confusing
our
them.
as you can tell by our podcast and all the topics that we're talking about, I was
Yes.
very festive and loves the fall and loves this. Yes,
I love all of the holidays.
Yes,
so
you do.
we won't be creepy all of the time or spooky.
No,
Well, it will change depending on
Yeah.
the topic.
of course.
All right. Did you have anything else?
I have two stories now that I think about it, because while we were talking, I kind of thought of another one. So listening to some of these other people's stories and their recollections, I believe my mother has seen my grandfather right at the foot of her bed. And I don't know if that still happens, if she still sees it, because I haven't asked her in a long time. But when he had first passed, I know it definitely happened. And that could be dreams, but I don't think so. He died in her arms, kind of deal. And
that's tragic.
Both their parents did.
Yeah.
But so I believe that she saw him. I mean, my mom's not crazy. But anyway, so that's one story. And then my story is, it's been a long time now. I rented a house down on Cape Cod from an old boss of mine many, many years ago, and I was getting ready to join the Marines, so I lived all by myself in this 3-bedroom house over the winter, and there's no one down on the Cape over the winter. So I closed the whole house down, so they only had to pay for the heat that I had to pay for. Anyways, long story short, one night, I'd been there for months, a couple months. One night I went to bed, and I was kind of staying in the master suite, which was right next to the kitchen. And I woke up and heard dishes being done, what I thought were dishes being done in the sink. You could hear very distinct, utensils and dishes being done in the sink. And I was like, what is that? So I got up and investigated. I got up and went out of my room, and by the time I got out into the kitchen, there was nothing. But there was a little bit of water in the sink, enough where I wasn't sure if I had washed something before I went to bed or if there was a little water in the sink. So of course I'm in my own head
freaky.
at that point.
I got goosebumps.
So I go back to bed. Well, now I'm not going right to sleep. I'm laying there. Sure enough, 15 minutes later, right as I think I'm falling back to sleep, I start hearing dishes in the sink again. I'm like, no way, what is up? So I go to get blasting up out of bed, I'm gonna blast up. And the bedroom door comes bombing open, and something held me down to the bed, pinned me right down to the bed, sheets up over my head kind of deal, and just held me there. Didn't harm me at all, would not let me move a muscle, to the point where I stopped fighting, and then, whoom, sucked right back out of the room, and the door smashed behind it. Boom, slammed. That's the way I remember it. Again, it was a long time ago. And I hadn't been drinking. I was down there working out, working full time, like I said, getting ready to join the service. And so I just laid there at that point. And I remember as soon as I decided to get up at all, I had a baseball bat that I had grabbed out. Leaned over and grabbed out of the
I don't think you can hit spirits.
Didn't matter. I had to do something, right? I had the bejeebus scared out of me. So I just took the bat into bed and laid there, and I didn't hear anything else for the rest of the time that I was there. I get up, got out of the room, went out, cleared the whole house, walked all around the whole house, didn't sleep.
I was going to ask you if you were able to fall back asleep.
And when I woke up, I guess, and thought it might be a dream, for whatever little cat nap I did have right before I woke up for work, I was still laying there holding the bat. Like it wasn't, I had had a bad night. And I get up, gathered as many clothes as I could grab, threw them in my car, and I didn't go back there for like a week. I actually had to leave work that day because I was a mess. I was, what in the heck was that, And so anyways, about a week, I stayed with friends, and about a week later, I went back down and started staying at the house again until I, left. But my mother called me, week and a half. 2 weeks later, whatever it was, her and I had a conversation, and we were talking, how's everything going? And she said something about how she had been having some bad dreams. And I was like, oh, bad dreams, that's the thing. She's like, a couple weeks ago, she's like, I had a horrible dream about you. She says, you were all skinny, and you were naked on a table, and there were hands all over you. And I'm like,
oh my God.
Totally brought it right back up. Like, I just got goosebumps. I was like, you are kidding me. And she's like, no. She's like, that's was the dream she had. And I was like,
and was that the same time period that you had experience?
Oh yeah, within a week or two. Yeah.
Wow.
I called my friend who owned the place, the guy I worked for at the place, and was like, hey, did you ever have anything happen at that house? And he was like very apologetic. He's like, no, nothing. But it was right on the water. It was on set, so it isn't really, it's just off the Cape, but it's right down there where any number of bad things could have happened to, between Indians and settlers, and who knows. But yeah, that was one way. Excuse me, Native Americans. I apologize. I'm getting old. I apologize. But yeah, no. So that's my story, and that was pretty crazy.
Even like on the Cape, you would think like even mariners or whatever
shipwrecks.
Trades. Yeah,
could have been
like
anything.
like that.
Some massacre.
Interesting.
Of all types.
Now I wonder if you
tragic death,
researched. If you could remember like exactly where it was and research it, if there's someone out there now that we have the wonderful world of the internet, like if anyone has ever posted like that they had experiences, then you don't know if he still owns it or anything.
Oh, I don't. I don't think he does. He's relocated down in North Carolina.
That is freaky.
Yeah, it was a crazy one. And like I said, I was in a good place. I wasn't under the influence or anything like that. Not the way I remember it, anyways. But yeah, I woke up and I'll never forget that. Never happened to me again. Never had anything like that happen again. I obviously once I joined the service, I never moved back into that house as an apartment, as a rental kind of deal. But yeah, crazy, spooky.
That is crazy.
Yeah, I'll never forget it. Obviously.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So, I have nothing.
You got nothing.
I've got nothing to share, but I do have.
So this is like the Halloween trick or treating thing, where you had all types of trick or treating stories, and I didn't have any. So
yeah,
I got ghost stuff, and you don't. Look at that.
That is, although our trick or treat episode won't be released until after this, but stay tuned. Now you want to listen.
Stay tuned. Teaser.
But I do have a friend of mine I went to high school with from our hometown. She wrote into us, and she had a bunch of stories to share that was from our hometown area, which I never knew about.
No, me neither.
And it was really very interesting. So I'll share a couple of them. I won't be able to get into all of them, but she had wrote in, I don't know if you remember Stevens Cemetery in Attleboro. I think it was around Tiffany Street. There was the grave that glowed a fluorescent green, and Unsolved Mysteries came and did a story on it. The grave was supposed to be haunted. And then she also wrote in that she bets that I can find a story online about a hitchhiker on Route 44 in Rehoboth that was a ghost. And then she also wrote in about a show called The Bridgewater Triangle, and to watch that. And it had a lot of local ghost stories from the area we were in. So I took Stacy's advice. I did a bunch of research on all three of the places. I couldn't find much about Stevens Cemetery or the Unsolved Mysteries show about it. I couldn't really find. There were some other things about it and some YouTube videos of people going to kind of check it out, but then they had closed it at night, so you couldn't really get in and find anything because they had locked down the cemetery at night. So I couldn't really find anything on that. But I found a ton of information on the Route 44 hitchhiker that I thought would be fun to share.
Yep.
So I found some information. There was a bunch of sources. Again, I will have these on our website and attached to the podcast show notes. But there was a What When How website that had a bunch of just kind of an overview, and it was called the Red-Headed Hitchhiker of Route 44. So if you're from like the Seekonk Rehoboth line in Massachusetts, that's where Route 44 is. So if you know anything about this or have seen a red-headed hitchhiker, I definitely want you to reach out to us.
No doubt.
Because there is conflicting information about it.
No. We need a tiebreaker.
So I'll read to you what this website had. It had that one of the most popular and notorious phantoms in Massachusetts walks along a dark stretch of road in the town of Rehoboth, which I actually I lived there as a baby in Rehoboth.
You did.
I don't remember it. I was too young. My mother hated it there.
She hated it because it was so rural.
Well, she's from Brooklyn, and then she moved to Rehoboth, was totally different.
Maine, yeah.
And she hated it there, but maybe she saw this.
That would have pushed her over the edge. Being the redhead hitchhiker.
So anyway, so this is in the town of Rehoboth. For more than 3 decades, a redheaded man has been seen walking down Route 44 waiting to be picked up. At times, he has been seen hitchhiking, and other times he has been seen walking into the woods or in the middle of the road, not moving as cars pass through him. At least once he was seen outside the window of a car that was moving at more than 40 miles per hour.
Yeah, that's spooky.
That is spooky.
You don't want to see anyone. No way. That's spooky.
So, story
That's how
has
accidents
it.
happen. Right there. That's how accidents happen.
Oh, absolutely.
You know?
How do you drive through someone without swerving or
right
getting into
oncoming
an
traffic.
accident?
Yes.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. Although it's there's not a lot of traffic there on Route 44.
Well, 44 is busy.
In the middle of the night?
Well,
I don't
not
think
in the middle
so.
of the night,
yeah.
no. He's not going to get a ride in the middle of the night either. You got to hitchhike during the right times. I mean, you should already had a hotel at that point. Right?
Yes.
He's all wrong.
You know what? Maybe you should go have a conversation.
Maybe I will.
So several people died along that stretch of the road, including a man matching the phantom's description, but no one can say for sure who the man is or when the haunting started. He is described as being more than 6 feet tall, well-built, and having red hair and a red beard. He is often seen wearing jeans or work pants, but is always described as wearing a red flannel shirt, sometimes tucked in, sometimes left out.
And he's very heavy-footed. He doesn't get out of the way of cars very well.
Some travelers say he's very well kempt. Others say that he's disheveled and dirty. But people who come into contact with him can tell he's not human by his eyes, which are often described as lifeless.
Well, so zombie-like.
Also, if you're like see-through and you can not see-through, but you know what I'm saying, like transparent.
Yes.
That also might seem lifeless. So most encounters follow a similar pattern. Someone is driving along, usually alone, when they see a man in or alongside the road. They may either hit him or stop to pick him up. The hitchhiker will interact with the person and then eventually vanish before their eyes or will no longer be there when they turn to look. This is followed by some type of audio finale where he laughs, yells at them, or taunts them. So that is what's reported by most.
Interesting. I've driven that road. We've driven that road, and I never knew that. That's crazy.
So local legend says that if 3 people are driving in the same car on Route 44, the red-headed hitchhiker will appear in the empty seat, the empty 4th seat.
Well, there's room for him, right? He just wants a ride.
So there's conflicting information about this. So the earliest written record of the occurrence was set down by Charles Turek Robinson in his 1994 book called New England Ghost Files. In it, he describes several encounters in detail. He talks about the people who have contacted him regarding incidents they have experienced with the Route 44 hitchhiker. The documentary, The Bridgewater Triangle, which Stacy also told me to look into, which is a whole other thing that I think we could have another show dedicated to. So I'm not going to get into the Bridgewater Triangle. But in this documentary, you can watch it. I think it's available on Amazon Prime, or you can find it in other places. But they talk about a bunch of different paranormal experiences or cryptids and things like that. But in that documentary, they have done research on multiple occurrences within the Triangle radius in southeastern Massachusetts. In this documentary, they talk about the Route 44 hitchhiker and claim that they have yet to find someone who has experienced this firsthand. They talk about like it's always like my mother's cousin's brother's, girlfriend experienced this. So they have, and they are pretty, I think they go out there and they research and they look for people and have, who've had the experiences. So according to the people in this documentary, they could not find any firsthand experiences. So they're chalking it up to nothing but an urban legend.
Or the hitchhiker could be retired, or he finally get a ride. Maybe finally get a ride.
I don't know why I keep you on this show.
I don't know either.
I'm just kidding.
I don't know either.
No, so I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting also.
It also should be noted that there are a few other newspapers and news reports. So, like, I think the Sun Chronicle, which is our local newspaper we grew up with, and some other news stations in the area actually had reports on these instances too. These links will also be in our show notes, but I don't think there were any firsthand experiences either. Just
that's a lot of
reports, anonymous reports
that aren't credible. That's weird, though. It almost makes them a little more credible just because there's so many.
Right.
Almost,
yeah. Because if you're hearing this, or people are writing in anonymously, I don't know. Like, urban legends is a whole other thing. Like, I've never even experienced like urban legends.
No,
right?
Me neither. No.
So I don't know. I tend to feel like people really believe that they've experienced something. I don't think there's a bunch of liars in the world going around trying to
some people pump these
cause
things up
drama,
to keep them going.
But maybe if they've heard this experience and then they have something that strange kind of happens to them,
similar,
maybe they just automatically think that this must have been this.
Maybe.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Interesting.
Ponder. I don't know.
We are pondering.
We are pondering. I'm a ponderer.
All right. I have one more, and I know we're going a little over our normal time, but this is kind of an extra episode that we weren't normally going to have, so I don't feel like we have to be in the same constraints as we normally would.
Yeah, we're off the rails.
Off the rails. I like it.
I like it too.
So I have one more quick one, and like I said, I feel like I could have went on forever, especially with the Bridgewater Triangle, but...
Yeah, that was an interesting watch, by the way. Go ahead, continue.
It was.
It was an interesting watch.
So a friend, again, another old friend, since I was a child, I've known her, Cheryl, writes in, and she says that, yes, she's definitely had experiences with the paranormal. She has visited many haunted places, but perhaps the creepiest was Ernestine and Hazel's in Memphis, Tennessee. It is said that 13 people have met their maker there, mostly the woman working in the brothel. We went upstairs on a deserted evening, and the negative vibe was super strong. My 2 girlfriends wouldn't even go into some of the rooms, but I braved it and survived. She says to read about the place, it has quite a long history, and she says that even Ike and Tina Turner used to party there back in the day.
Ike and Tina, ripping it up.
So I also did some research on this, and like the Bridgewater Triangle, Ernestine and Hazel's in Memphis has a ton of information about haunting and paranormal experiences that people have had there. And if you look up Ernestine and Hazel's, they actually promote it that way. Like, yes, we're haunted. Yes,
Right.
this happened.
Kind of using it for tourism, yeah.
And then there was an article, and again, I don't want to get too much into it, but I found an article about them finding, they were doing like some refurbishing in part of the pub, and they found skeletons.
Oh, no kidding.
In the wall or floor. I think it was the wall.
Wow.
I'm not sure. You'll have to look it up.
That is homicide.
Yes.
Foul play
Or-
at a minimum,
yes.
right? Foul play at a minimum.
There's something not right.
There's something not right.
If you're finding bones.
Yeah, if you have bodies in your floorboards or in your walls, something's not right.
Something's wrong.
Foul
here.
play.
All right. So
Yes.
I think that kind of brings us.
Okay.
Again, I was very excited to have people
share their
reach out
stories.
to us
Yeah.
on social media.
Thank you very much to all you guys for sharing. Don't make
wanna
fun of my
hear-
story too much. I don't want to appear too crazy.
No, I think that was a great story. That was scary. I literally had goosebumps.
Well, hopefully you all had
and I've heard it
too.
before, but he told it much better for you.
Well, I'm a good storyteller sometimes. Yeah, thank you for sharing all your stories, though, everyone. That was enjoyable.
Yeah, and if you have any comments or experiences to share with us, again, you can find us on any social media, Instagram, not Snap, but Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, our website, our email.
We shouldn't be hard to find.
We're not hard to find.
No.
Just look for us.
Just look for us.
All right, so I'm gonna
Wrap it up?
wrap it up.
All right.
All right. So thank you so much for taking the time to listen to us today. I absolutely loved hearing from our listeners and wish we could have spent some more time digging into the stories that were shared. We will keep these on the back burner for another time. As always, we'd like to give a big shout out to Francis for our podcast artwork.
Thank you, Francis.
Yes, and all of our listeners that wrote in. I can't tell everyone how much we appreciate your feedback and stories. You can help our show tremendously by listening on any of your favorite podcast sites, including Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music. You can go to our, there's many other podcast platforms you can listen on, or you can go directly to our website at waitwhatwhy.buzzsprout.com. We absolutely appreciate you all. Stay tuned, as we will have another episode coming out for the end of the month featuring one of our daughters, Cameron Gallagher,
Ooh, Cameron.
as we discuss the psychology of fear. And of course, we will have our regular episodes out there as well. So stay tuned, listen, please share, and have a great spooky month.
We appreciate y'all. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.